Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I show you how to create a login page for a music website. Now you can use the techniques here to create a login page for any kind of website, of course. And this website has, if I refresh the page, you see we've added some animation here. So we have some animation going on there, and you can switch between sign up page and login page. Okay, both have some animation going on there. Also, we have responsive design. So this design is responsive. If you see, as I squeeze the page, everything switches from top to bottom. The buttons that were on the side are now here, and things still work here as intended. Okay, so if I do that, you see those buttons have moved here now. Okay, so let's see how we can make something like this using Bootstrap, of course. All right, so to begin with, of course, since we are using Bootstrap to speed things along, we're going to go to the Bootstrap website. So you have to go to getbootstrap.com or just search, do a Google search for Bootstrap. And this is the page you'll be presented with is this one, actually. So it may look different depending on the current version of Bootstrap, but most things should work the same. And you can click, wait, this is not the Bootstrap page. I'm not on the home page, sorry about that. Okay, so this is the home page for Bootstrap currently. So you can click on download here to get, currently the version is 5.2 that I have, but you can always click here to select a particular version that you want. So no worries there. Click download and don't get the source, but get the compiled version. So download that. It will present you with a zip folder. Also, we want to use some icons. As you can see, we have icons in here. So we want to use Bootstrap icons, even these ones down here. So you go to Bootstrap icons, click on the icons tab there, and then current version is 1.83, but version doesn't really matter as long as it shows you the icon names themselves. So just click on current version here, click there, current version, and then you download the so it takes you to GitHub where you can download the icons currently. So once you get that zip file, go back to here, Bootstrap icons, and let's scroll down to the bottom of the page where it shows you how to install. And we are looking for the part that says CDN so that we can have a link to the CDN. So I'm just going to copy this link. This is a link where you can just include in your project, but you still need internet connection for things to work. So I'll click here, copy to clipboard, and then what I'll do is I'll open my text editor. So you can get a text editor of your choice and use it. Personally, I'm using Sublime Text, but you can use any text editor. So to get Sublime Text, just Google and download. It's free to use. Okay, so what I want is to get this link right here. So I'm just going to copy that link. Copy. So that's the CSS file for Bootstrap icons. I'm going to close this. I don't need that anymore. So if I come back here, I'm going to put this link in my browser, and it's going to bring up this. So click on one of the text, Control A to select all, and then copy that. Come back to your text editor, paste in here, and then we have our file. Excuse me. So this is our CSS file that we're going to use. Okay, so what we'll do now is I'm going to save this file. So what I did is I created a folder on my desktop. That is the wrong folder. So I created a folder on my desktop, my sites, and inside my sites there's Soundwave login, and there's an underscore there. So Soundwave underscore login. That's the folder. So desktop, my sites, Soundwave login. It doesn't really matter the folder names. Just put the whole thing in a folder. And this is where I downloaded my Bootstrap Icons zip file and Bootstrap actual Bootstrap here and the icons there. And then I have a folder here with a few images, as you can see. So you can get any images from the internet, doesn't really matter, but you can download what I have here with a link in the description, of course. So in here, this is where we want to put our folders. So what I'm going to do is I will go to my sites and then drag the folder that I want to use. That's the Soundwave login, and my mouse isn't cooperating here. I'll drag it into my project folder, into Sublime Text, so that I can see the folders right here. But this file is not saved yet, the information that we copied for the CSS. So what I'll do is I want to save it. So in order to save it, so it shows me this folder right here, I'll right click on Soundwave login and say new folder and create a CSS folder. So type CSS. So this is the same as going to the Windows directory and creating a folder inside the Soundwave login folder. So once I create that, I'll say new file, right click on the CSS folder, new file. I want to cut everything from here and paste it here. The reason I've done that is so when I click save, it takes me directly to the CSS folder. So in here, we'll name this file anything we want, but let's keep Bootstrap there. Let's say Bootstrap dash icons. Sorry about that. Icons.css. So you can name it anything as long as you say .css at the end. That's fine. So once you save it, there we go. We can now close this. So we have that file now inside our CSS folder, which is great. Now let's extract these zip folders that we have here. So I'm going to right click and say open containing folder, just to take me to this folder. And this is the Bootstrap. So I'm going to extract to this folder and also the icons to that folder. Okay. So I don't need these files anymore. So what I can do now is, excuse me, all we need now is, because we already have the icons CSS, we just need the Bootstrap CSS. So I'm going to go into this folder, open that, go to CSS. So the file I'm looking for is bootstrap.css, bootstrap.mean.css, and also bootstrap.mean.css.map. So I'll copy those two files and then come to my CSS folder and paste them there. So now I have 3 files. Like, that's all I needed from all this. So the rest of the files are pretty much useless. So I'm just going to make a folder called files in here and then put everything I don't need in there. So you can pretty much delete that. It'll still work. Oh, wait a second. Wait, sorry about that. When I go to the files folder, we need the icons fonts. Sorry about that, I forgot. So we go in this folder. This folder is the one that we downloaded from the fonts section. So it gives you SVG fonts. So in case you want to use the fonts as images or the icons as SVG, you can use them from here. That way you don't have to include the CSS file. But in our case, we want to include the CSS file, so we will need these fonts. So just copy the fonts folder, copy, and let's go out of here and go to our CSS folder, right where there is Bootstrap Icons CSS, paste that folder for fonts right there. Okay, great. So once you've done that, we are pretty much good to go. So now I need to create an HTML file in here that will be our actual login page. So I'm going to close this here, and this is our sample, what we've already made, but let's create a new tab and open a file from there. Now let's create the file because we can't open a file we haven't created. So I'll right click on Soundwave login, a new file, and then save. And this one will be, let's call it login just so we are consistent. So it's going to be login.html and then save. even though it will contain login and sign up pages. And then I can right click, open containing folder, and then I can now drag and drop it into my browser right here, drop. Or you can press alternate key F and then open file and then load it that way. Okay, great. So now we have our login.index HTML page here. So let's add some code in here. So I'm going to type exclamation point here, or let me save this. And I'm going to type HTML. I'm looking for suggestions from Sublime Text, but I can't seem to get them. I want the, yeah, that's what I wanted, that part right there. So you type bracket HT so that it gives me this this thing here. Actually, there's something missing that I keep forgetting from here. What you could do is, if you go to Bootstrap official page and go to, where is the official page here? Anyway, let me just click here on the official page. I want us to copy the starter HTML that you need there, and then we can delete what we don't need, because there's some text here that I need in the header, and the text is not easy to remember, so I want to use a method that everyone can remember. So we go to the starter. Where is this? Okay, let's go to the docs, I guess. That's where we will find the starter document. Come on, come on, come on. Slow internet. Let me see, maybe one of these tabs. Yes, this one does have. So I'm looking for maybe introduction, getting started with Bootstrap. And this is the starter document, and the line I'm looking for is this one in particular. This is good for responsive design. If your page is going to be viewed on mobile devices, you need this line there. So just copy this right there and paste it. In case you're not using Sublime Text and it can't give you this, just paste that. Okay, so we're going to save. This is much better because it has UTF encoding type, and then it has this line, which is very needed. So here we're going to write login dash and then Soundwave, because that's the template name, and save. So hello world. So once we've saved, if I now go to my page and refresh, this is what I get. Okay, so now let's include, and you can see there's login at the top there. So I want to include Bootstrap now. So to include, we'll do it right in the head here. I'll put link, and then in there I'm going to type CSS because that's the folder we are in, and type bootstrap .min.css. Let me put the word wrap so that you can see all of it down here. Okay, so that alone includes the Bootstrap file, and we will know that it's been included if the font changes. If I refresh and the font changes, then Bootstrap is active. In the same way, let's put another link. Now this time we're going to link to css/bootstrap.bootstrap-icons. So this is the file you created, .css. Okay, save. Now to know that this has actually worked, right here before hello, let's put a space, let's put an I tag, and then in there let's put a class name and put bi, that's Bootstrap Icons, bi-person, like this. So this is the icon name that was given by Bootstrap itself, and this is how they recommend you show their icons. So I know to do this because it's there in the documentation. If you go to the icons page, it shows you how to add an icon. Where is this? Just like that, or this one right here. Okay. So there's instructions here, or this one right here, clock, bi, BI alarm clock. So that's how I know how to do this. So if I do this, and I should see an icon on my side here. If I refresh and I see that icon, then everything is fine. Okay, so at this point we have icons and we have Bootstrap running, so we are ready to begin creating our page. So let me remove, instead of this this part here, I'm going to change this to Soundwave, because there's an icon called Soundwave, like that, and then change this to Soundwave, like so. Okay, great. So that's what we have now for now. So if you're looking for a specific icon, go back to Bootstrap Icons page right there, and there's a search here. So if I search for sound, you'll see the Soundwave right here. So you can choose any of these icons that you want, just type the name, and it will show up there. Excuse me. Or if you click on the icon, it will bring you a page that shows you how to include that icon. Okay, so like this one right here. So you can just copy that to clipboard and then paste it where you want, like this. Okay, great. For now, we're going to go back so that we can do more searches when we need to. Okay, so to begin with, let's add some inside here, body. Also, we're going to need to add a CSS file, a custom CSS file. But I prefer we do the CSS from here in the body, right inside here, then we can move everything to a external file later. So here, let's add a few divs. Okay, so I'm going to add a div. Let's call this one main, just so we know it holds everything in there. Let me move this to that point, like so, so that this is inside the main, like so. And then let's add a div, another div inside here, which will hold two divs, and then another div and another div, like so. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is because let's look at the original file. This background here will be the main container, and then we have one container here which holds two containers, which is one that holds the image and the other that holds the login page itself. So this is why I've created those, and then there's Soundwave at the top there. So if I refresh, you won't see those things, but they're there. So in order for us to see what's going on, we can put some classes here. So I'm going to put a class here, put background color, so that at least we see something. So here, one I'll put warning, and the other one I'll put, let me just put maybe red. Red is not a thing. Warning, there's one called info, like that. And then I'll put a class here as well, so that we can see this as well. And I'll put a border. So these are Bootstrap classes that we are using. Okay, so if I now refresh, I won't see much of those anything, because these things have no height. So I'm going to go to the main one here, and this main one, oh, actually, wait a second. So maybe let's see, I want to move this to the center, which is this one there. So let me start by adding styles. Like I said, we'll add styles here, which we'll move later. So height, let me put 600 pixels so that we can at least see something. So refresh. Now we have a height, as you can see, this thing with a border down here. But then the others have no height as well, like this one here. So this one has no height, and this one. So let's put a style as well and say height 100%, like that, so that those two divs inside also have a height. And as you can see, there's one div here and another div here. Now I want them to be left, right, just like we have here, one this side, one that side. So what I'll do is I'll use display flex on the container that contains both of these. So in here, I'll use display flex. Now, since, it's in here actually. Since Bootstrap already has a class to do that, we'll just do dflex like this. Or actually, let's use row because it does the same thing. And then let's call each one of these a column like this. Okay, so back here and refresh. So immediately we do that, we have 2 columns here. But I want to limit this to a specific value, the whole container, this one. So height is 600 pixels, but width, I want it to have 100% width, but I want to give it a maximum width it can go to, which is 900 pixels. Okay. So if I refresh now, this is what I get, but I want it in the center. So what I'll do is I'll use a Bootstrap class called mx_auto. So mx is margin on the x-axis, which is left and right. So all I'm doing is saying margin on the left should be auto, margin on the right should be auto. So that's what I'm doing, and refresh. This is what I get. So we're getting closer and closer to this, what we have here, as you can see. Okay, now I want to move this over there in the center. First of all, to reduce the font size, I can put a class on an h1. It's already an h1 tag, but I can put an h2 tag to give it the styles of an h2 instead. That comes with Bootstrap as well. So I want to move this to the center. So what I'll do is I'll tell it that text center, another Bootstrap class, okay, which will move things to the center. Now I want padding on top and on the bottom, so I'll use padding y, which is py in this case, and put 4. So there's 1, 2, 3 up to 5. So you can choose a smaller number if you want less padding, etc., etc. So like this one, we had less padding there. So if you want to put specific padding on top, you do pt3 and then p bottom, which is padding on the bottom. Let's put 2. That way we have separate padding on top and bottom like that. Okay, good. Now let's change the background so that we have something that looks like this. So I'm going to inspect this element to grab the color, the color that we're using. So it's on the body, and I'm going to copy that color. Okay, so the body is here, so I'm just going to put styles on the body itself. I'll just style and say background color, put that color there, and I want a minimum width that the body can go to. It shouldn't go below 350 pixels, like so. Okay, great. Let's move that down there. Right, so let's see what that does. If I refresh, now we have that color, but our text is all dark now. So what we will do is let's put text white on the main here. So I'm just going to say class and say text white. So you can put text dash and then put any color from Bootstrap. Bootstrap has several colors. There's primary color, white, dark, black, warning, info. So you can check them out in the documentation. So let's choose white, and there we go. So we are getting closer to that. Now what we need to do here is we're putting a different color here. Excuse me. It's this color, but a lighter version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, inspect to get the original color, which is this one. So I'll copy it and then put it on this one. So instead of background, this is the one, BG info. I'm going to remove that. Instead, I'll put a style in here and say background color, put that color there and save. So refresh, now it will look like it has disappeared. Okay, but because of the border, we can see it. So I'm going to right click, inspect, and then get that color, click on it, and then just try to move it a bit closer to the lighter version like this until I can get to a good color there. But let's get what we already used here. So I'll inspect that instead and go to here I'm looking for the background color, which is that one. Copy. So it's similar to this, actually, very close. There we go. So very slight difference. So then we can use that here instead. Paste like so. Okay. So come back and refresh. There we go. Very nice. And now what we want to do is add an image on this side, and then we can start adding stuff here. So to begin adding an image, what I will do is I will go, let me put some space in this div, because this is a div that will have the image. And what I want to do is do this, put an image. Now the thing is, excuse me, there are two ways to add an image. You can add a background image instead, but I want to animate this image, so this is why I want to add an actual image, so I can add some animation to it. Or you can add a div inside here and put a background image and then animate the div. Even that will work just fine. But for now, I'll just use this. So I'll go into images / I want to look at the images I have. I have number 08 and 09, so and 10. So we'll see what each one of them looks like, but let's try 8. So I'll say 08.jpg. That's the image I have. And then let me add some styles to this as well. So first of all, I want the width of this image to be 100%, and I want also the height to be 100% because I want it to fit both sides. So refresh, and there we go. So we have 100%, 100%. Doesn't look so, yeah, it is. Okay, but there's a slight padding on this div, which has column, I guess. So what I can do is say P0 to remove all the padding. So say padding 0. Let's see what that does. Okay, that removes all the padding. And then now I want this image to not be stretched. I want it centered. So what I'll do is I'll add a style called object fit and put that on cover. Okay, so let's refresh, and there we go. So much nicer. And then let's come down here and add our content, which is this. So in here, I don't want the content to be right in this div. I want it in the center somewhere. So I'll add another div inside to make way for that. So let's do that. Let me add a div, and I'll add some classes. And of course, I will add a form in here and then add some inputs, right? Type of text. Let's add a class, sorry about that, some Bootstrap classes, and one for these is form control. Like that. So let's come back here and refresh, and there we see that. But this is not good enough, so let's go to the Bootstrap website and just choose what's already been created so we can speed things along. All right, so on the website, we go to the docs. This is the docs section. Now there are some examples here. So inside forms, there's one that's input group. That's the one I want. So let's open input group. I actually have a tab here already. So I want this one, which has a thingy at the end there. So that's the second item. So in here, these are the examples. So I'm going to copy this. So copy that and come back to here and put that in here. Okay. So I will put that there. Just push things to be normal. Okay, so let's fix a few things. Also, I want to put an h2 tag, which has login there, and then let's put another h5 tag, which please enter your details, like this. Okay, good. So let's see how these guys are faring. So I'll come here and refresh, and this is what we get. Okay, so not bad. But what we want to do is, excuse me, let's change this to an icon, just like we have that icon, and this icon is envelope, this one is key. Those are the names. You can search for them here and you will find them. So what we'll do is, instead of this text here, let's put an I tag so that we can add a Bootstrap class. So bi envelope. Okay, good. Now these area, let me remove the word wrap here so that it goes all the way to this side. So I'm going to remove these area described, area label. We don't really need them because those are for accessibility. For now, we just want to see what's working and what isn't. So, and then the placeholder here will be email. So email like that. Okay, good. Okay, very nice. Now let's come back and refresh. There we go. Okay, pretty cool. But I want to enlarge these guys. So in the class for the input, I want to add some padding. So padding of 3 all around. So refresh, and that looks much better to me at least. Now I want some space on the top because as you can see, we have some space there. So what we can do is put padding on the top on the form itself. So I'm going to say padding top, and maybe 3 will do just fine as well. So let's refresh, and there we go. Maybe 4. Let's go to 4. The limit is 5 for Bootstrap classes here. Right, so with that, I can add a password version of this. So I'm going to do that and duplicate this. And then this one will be password. And instead of an envelope, I'll put a key for the icon. And then the type should be password here of the input so that the text is not visible. And then we can put let's put a break tag here. Or maybe there's no need for a break tag. What we can put is, we can put another of these input. It says input group. No, I don't need that. Let's close that. I'll remove input group. I just need the margin bottom 3. And then in here, I will add a button. So I'll put a button like this, and this button is login like that. So let's see what we have. Excuse me. So now let's style this button so that it looks much better. It should look like this one. Okay. So to style it, let's add some Bootstrap classes. There's a class called button for Bootstrap. And once you add that, that's the generic button class. But I want this button big, so I'll put button LG for button large. And also I want button outline. There's outline, and then you can put a color here. So the color yellow is warning in Bootstrap. Is it yellow, orange? I don't know. So there we go. That looks more like that. Okay. And then actually I want more space between these guys, and that word enter is not correct. So let me put a bit more. So instead of this margin bottom 3 that comes with it, I'll put 4 instead, and put 4 here as well. Okay, so that button works just fine. Let me put a break tag here and put some other content like an A tag. Let's put a hash since we don't want it to go anywhere. So let's say forgot password or sign up like that. Okay, now I want to add some classes to this. Actually, let me put this inside a div altogether so that it's on its own line. And actually, maybe let me move it down so that there's no need to add a break tag. Let's do this, and let's put this inside there. Oopsie daisy. Okay, and then I can add a class here, margin bottom 4. And then I want, because Let's come back here and refresh. Okay, so we have a link there. Now, if we don't want our links to have a line like that, what I would do is right here, let's add, just before the body, let's add some styles. We are going to move these styles into a style class, a CSS file, sorry. So what I want to do here is make sure that I do a style for body and specifically for A tags. So I'll put A there. And then I'm going to put text decoration and put that on none, like this. Okay. All right, so that should remove the underline. And if I don't want them to be blue, I want them to be yellow for this, or orange for this particular case. What I can do is on the A tag, I'll add a class. And this one is text warning, so that they are like the warning thingy. Now, each one of these should be a separate link. So I'll put this one here like so, and then copy this to the sign up as well. And then close that tag at the end like so. Okay, cool. So let's refresh. Now we have that. So that's a bit similar to what we have here. Okay, pretty good. And now let's put an H tag there, follow us down there. So let's HR tag like so, and then we'll have another div here, and we have follow us. Let's put a bracket like so. Actually, we don't need that. Let me put a div instead. That's much better. Then inside this div, I'm going to add an A tag like that, and then put an I tag to put an icon. So I'm going to put a class name of BI Facebook like that. Duplicate this a few times. This one is Twitter, and this one is Instagram. Okay, like this. Then maybe let's see how well that looks. Okay, so not bad. I want these guys to be bigger, so I'll put an H tag on each one of them here. Maybe H3 will do. And if I want their color to be white, I can put text white on all of them like that, or I can use a different color from the Bootstrap library. Alrighty then, let's see here. We are getting closer. That is good. But let's squeeze these things a little bit inward for now. I want a margin around the form itself. So the form has a padding on top, but I want a padding all around of maybe, let's put 1 maybe. Let's try that and refresh. Not enough, let's put 2. Let me refresh, much better, maybe. Okay, pretty great now. So far, so good. Now let's start adding a few other things. So here everything is good. Let's remove the border that we added to this part right there. So let's remove that border so that we have no border anymore. Refresh, and there we go. So that's looking much better. Okay, pretty good. Now what we want is to slant this thing here. As you can see, we slanted it here. But actually, maybe before we do that, let's deal with the responsive view of this. So let me go to responsive design view. And as you can see, from this perspective, this is fine. But if I squeeze a whole lot more, we have a limit of 350 pixels. That's the limit I have put there. Once we hit that limit, it creates a scroll bar down here, which you can see, and you can move things around, which is good. It prevents it from squeezing things too much, even on very small screens. So we don't want this. We want at a certain point for this to go on top and this to go down. So luckily Bootstrap already has that covered. So all we have to do is between these two divs, There's this one and this one, where we added column like this and column there. Normally when you just add core like this, they will share the space equally. But I want them to share the space equally, so I'll put 6 and then -6. Now if you want them to share differently, because the total is 12, you can put maybe 2 here and put 10 there, like so. And then you will see that the sharing is not proportionate. So if in case this is what you want for your login page, you can do that instead. Kind of looks nice actually. Or you can increase to maybe 4 and then put 8 here instead, like so. Okay. So it's really up to you how you want this to be. This is rather nice as well. But I want them to share it equally, so I'm going to put a 6 and a 6. But I want to tell it that because Bootstrap is mobile first, so I'm telling it that on the mid section, because there are breakpoints where things can happen, you can set the breakpoints are already set actually. So if I say MD here, this means at a certain pixel count, which is I think 768, it's going to change and go back to normal. So I'm going to refresh here to be fine on larger screens. But if we go to responsive design view and you watch here, I get to 760 something pixels, and then this happens. So this goes to the top, this comes down to the bottom like this. Okay, so which is exactly what we want. So that's how easy it is to put responsive design view. So you can change this from MD if you want. Maybe you want it at LG, which is large. So this means that it will change quite early in the process. So from here you see that, and then it changes there. Doesn't wait to get to here, but it changes over there. So it's up to you where you want this to change. Or you can put it on small, which is SM, like that. And if I refresh, you'll see that it will wait very long until it gets to that point. So it depends what you can live with, but this is too small. So let's put it at MD. That's where I've put mine. So that at this point it changes. Okay, great. Right, now excuse me. Now when it changes here, we can add we'll add a media query. So we'll add our own breakpoint here so that we reduce the height of this image from this to something smaller. Okay, now before that, let's add the slanting thing, and then we can add our buttons here and switch to, so we can switch between login and sign up. So in order to add this section here, this slant, what I did is I added another element here and then skewed it a little bit. In other words, I rotated it to be at this angle like this, and then gave it this color so that it looks like it's part of this, but it's actually part of this div here. So what we would do is we're going to name this div something so that we can grab it from the from CSS. So what I'll do is I'll give it a name here, and this one will be img container. You can give it any name that you want. That's just what I've decided to give it. So right here we'll put .img container like that, so that we can add some stuff to it. But I want to add one with after like that. Okay. So now that we've given this one a we've given it a class name, we can also remove this style here and move it in there instead. Let's put that like that. Then we can remove our style tag. But on the after, so after, there's two of these pseudo elements. There's before and after. So what they do is they just add something before this element and after the element. So I want to add something after. It doesn't really matter. I can add before, after to use to create this, doesn't matter. But after will create an element down here, before will create something at the top. So what I want is to create some empty content. So I'm just going to write content like this, and then content will be empty like that. And then this same empty content, I'm going to give it a width of 100 pixels. I'm going to give it a background color of red just so we can see it. And then I'll give it a height of 100% so we can see it as well. And that's about it. So let's look at that content. So I can't see it at all for some reason. Let's see, image container. Yeah, it should actually show at this point. Content with background color, red, height 100%. Maybe let's try 100 pixels for height. Maybe 100% isn't doing anything. Wait a second, I still can't see it. Okay, what I'll do is I'll give it, let me put it back on 100%. I'll give it a position of, maybe it's behind the image. That's possible. So I can try to disable the image by messing with the source so that maybe we can see it. Okay, I still can't see it. So it's not because of the image. Okay, so another thing we can do is let's change its position to absolute. That way it will be forced to come to the surface. And there we go. So there it is. It's right there. Okay, okay. And then now what I want to do is on this same container, the image container, I want anything that goes beyond the container to be clipped so that we don't have this problem where something is going beyond what it's supposed to. And also I want to make sure that I use border box for everything in the body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to do star and do that. So this means all elements. And what I'll do is I'll say border, actually it's box sizing. I will use border box. What this does is that if I add padding or a border to an item, it doesn't mess with the width. Because let's say, for example, I give an item 100% pixel width. It will be 100% in the width, but if I add some padding or I add some margins, it won't be 100 pixels anymore. It will extend to include those padding and border that I've added. But when I do this, it's going to tell it that the 100 pixels should include everything like padding, border, and all that, so that we have better sizing of stuff. So if I do this, it doesn't seem to have done anything, but it's okay. What we want this for is to skew it a little bit this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here and say transform, and then I'll use a skew and just say something like 20 degrees. No, 20 degrees is too much, but just so you can see what's going on. So I'll put it at 20 degrees like that, and then if I refresh, you'll see it has gone like this. So that's fine. So now what I'll do is I'll reduce it to 5 degrees so it's not so bent, and then I'll move it this way to cover the image a bit more. So what I'll do is, since the position is absolute, now in order for this position to work well, we have to, it should be in relation to this container, but let's see that. I'm going to say top is 0 pixels, and then right should be, let's put 0 pixels as well, so that it's top and right side. Now once I do that, it goes to the other side of the page because those positions are relative to the whole document. But if we put relative position on this one, it will confine that to its own space. So what I'll say is position relative on the main container, and that will help to move things there. And as you can see, it has been limited to the height of this container that it's relative to. So now what I want to do is just move this over here until it covers that area. So I'll need to squeeze these things inside here a bit more to give more space. So what I'll do is on this one, or it's this one, the form, I'll add more padding, maybe increase it to 4, like this. That way there's more space. I can even move it, lean it to the other side, but this is fine. So let me move this a bit this way. So what I'll do is I'll move it right here. So instead of right being 0, I'll put it in the negatives, maybe -20. Because right is counted from this side. So if I move it negative, as you can see, it's almost there. So let me put -25, something like this. Maybe -30. Okay, there we go. So this, I want this to come on top of this one. So what I can do is add a Z index on this one, the form itself. So the form, I can add a style and put Z index of maybe 2, or let's put 10, because we know the others are at 1. So just to help it come on the top. And let's change the position, because I think Z index only works when you use relative or absolute positioning. So let's try that. And as you can see, it's now on top, which is good. Now what we can do to this line is give it this color so that it looks like it's part of it. So what I would do is go to background color on, which is this one here. Copy that and go to the same after element, give it a background color like that. So back here, and let's refresh. So this is how you get this look. And so before we change the background color here, there's background color red there. We can adjust it to make it as small as possible. So instead of width at 100, maybe I'll put it at 70 pixels like that. So it's not so big. And it still works like that. So good. So 70 it is. Let's try 60. I just want as, yeah, I think 60 is even better. So let's remove background red and activate this one like so. And there we go. Okay, great. Things are looking good. So if I come here, we are almost there. So the only thing we need is these 2 buttons, then we are good to go. So let's refresh, and there we go. So let's create those buttons. All right, so those 2 buttons will be in this particular container, and this container is this one here. So what I'll do is I'll just put them in here before the form here. Of course, just here is enough. So I'll say div and then duplicate to make 2 of them. This one will have sign up, this one will have login. Let's add some classes to them. So I'll add a class, and just so we can grab them, I'll say login button. Yeah, maybe. You can give these buttons any names that you want, any class names that you want. Sign up button, there we go. Or it can be sign up switch, sign up, it doesn't matter. So those are the buttons there. And let me grab, let's say the login one, and let's put some styles there, like that. Okay, so first of all, the positioning I want to maintain as, okay, wait a minute. I want to maintain as absolute. Now, like I said, for this to be maintained properly, this one must have a position of relative. So the parent position relative. As long as we want the thing to remain within this container as we move it around, or to be relative to this. So This one has position of absolute. The parent must have a position of relative. It's not always, it depends what you want really. So in my case, it works better if I have a relative here. So then what I'll do is I'll move it so that in relation to this box, I'll say the left side of it will be minus, let's say, 100 pixels, and then the top, let's try 30 pixels. This one should be a full column. Okay, so if I refresh, there is where the login page goes. So in relation to this page, it goes this way negative, this way positive, and then there's sign up there. So what I want to do for this one is add a background color, which is white, because that's normally when it's not selected, and then add some padding of maybe 10 pixels. Let's add 10 pixels up down and 20 pixels left and right. And then let's add border radius so that at least they look roundish. So border radius of maybe 20 pixels, and this should do the trick. Since it's white, the background is white, let's add a color, a foreground color, which is the same as these elements here, the background color of the whole thing, which is kind of dark. And there we go. So looking good. Maybe we try this color instead. That's the color we used for this thing here. Let me put that there. Refresh, and much better. Okay, so that's the login button there. Let's try the sign up as well. Let's give it exactly this, and then just adjust the top side. So I'm going to shift like that, and then this one is sign up button. Let me change that. Sign up button. Only thing I'm changing is the top. Let's bring it lower. So let's try 100. Let's see how far we go with that. That's too far. So let's try maybe 80 pixels. Should do the trick. Okay, much better. So pretty good. So there we go. This one, that one. Let's add a cursor of pointer on both of these. So cursor, pointer. That way somebody knows they can click on those buttons. Okay. But then when one of them is selected, let's add a different color. So we'll say dot button selected. This is just a class name. You can give any class name. I want the background color to change to the one that's with the parent. So background color to that when it is selected. And then of course, because it's dark, the color should be white, the text color, like that. Okay. Now we won't see anything there because that class is not used. But if I put it on the login button right now, so on the login button, I can say button selected like that. That should make it different, give it a different color. Okay. So the only reason it's overriding the other one is because this style comes second from this one. Okay, so there we go. Now we'll make it so that when we click on one of these, they switch places, no problem. But so far so good, everything is working fine, and the responsive design is also working well, except for one thing. Let's make it respond to the smaller size here. Okay. So what I want is when we get to this point where it switches, I want those buttons, as you can see, those buttons are gone now because they are on this side of this thing. So we can't see them, they're off the screen. I want them to come here, and also I want to reduce the height of this thing, and I want to make this thing disappear because we don't want it anymore at this point. So in order to achieve this, we use what is called a media query. So I know for a fact that these things change at 768, so you can test that by just adding a number here until you get to a number that things change, and that's the number there, 768. So what I'm going to do is add a media query here. So it's called a media query because it's a breakpoint where you can add different, completely different styles at that screen size. So media queries are very powerful stuff. They are good for responsive design. This is what Bootstrap uses as well. So if I say media like this, and then say max width, and then put that max width there like so. So any styles I put here now are going to be active once we get to 768 and below. Okay, I can also use min width here, but if I use min, it means the styles I put here will activate at 768 and above. So keep that in mind. Do the opposite. When it's max, it's below this one, because that's the maximum you can go with these. And it's always a good idea to put the media queries at the bottom so that they can override any styles that are at the top here. So to begin with, let's override these buttons, their positions. So I'm going to copy both these styles and put them here. And I want to move them inward like so. And move that there. Okay, so all I'm doing is overriding the left and top. I want everything else to remain the same. So I'll remove these. I just want to change the top and the left, which is the position. Okay, so in this case, the top may be 30 pixels, I don't know. Left should be 0. Let's try 0 first. That way we can actually see these things. So I'll refresh, and this will only occur at 768, and we are at 768. So I don't want it to happen right at 768, no. So I'm going to adjust this to 767 and below. So let's refresh that so that on 768 it's still good, but let's move to 767 and things have changed. But where are the buttons? I can't see those buttons, right? Also, I want this to disappear, so let's try that before we move those buttons. And that thing is here in the image container after. So I just want that to disappear, and so I'll say at this point let's use display none, and let's close that tag. So let's see if that part works at least. So as you can see, it doesn't work either. So there's something wrong with our media query. Let me enlarge it a bit, see if we are doing the opposite, and we are not. Okay, so it works right at 766, right? That's when everything starts working. So that's not good, which means we have 767 when things are bad. So maybe we should move it to 768 after all. Let me try this, refresh. Okay, so that works there. But what about on 768? I don't know why things seem to be bad here as well for some reason. So maybe we need intersecting values. Anyway, I'll leave it at 767. It doesn't matter because we won't have a phone right there on that resolution. Maybe there is, who knows. So let's move it down. Let's move these guys a bit higher to this point. Okay, so here on the media query, the top should be topper. So the top should be less than this. So I'm going to say maybe minus 80 pixels. Let me try one button, then I'll move the other. Where has it gone? It's completely disappeared. Oh, that's the left. Sorry, it's the top I'm supposed to be changing. Minus 30. Okay, there we go. Minus 30 looks fine. I just want it to add maybe 100 pixels on the left and add 180 on the other one so that there's a difference, and still put 30 on the top so that they're on the same level top wise. And there we go. But I want this higher. So sign up when it comes to the top should be minus 30, not 30 positive. And there we go. So let me increase the gap between the two by increasing to 190 on the left. Okay, there we go. So sign up, login. Good. So now things are working as intended, but I want this to be smaller. So if you remember, this thing has a height of 600 pixels. Now I can't use media queries if the styles are directly here, because the styles that are direct here will always override what's in here. So we have to move this to the top. So I'll give this guy a class, and this one will be what do we call this one? We'll call it content, because it really holds everything here. So I'm just going to copy that, and make sure you put all your styles above any media queries, so it's much better that way. So content, and then I will grab everything here, cut it out, remove that style, tag, and paste it there like so. So there we go. So content height is at 600, but I want to change it when I get to here. So in here, in this media query, it should change to something lower. So maybe half of that, which is 300 pixels. So refresh, and there we go. So we have 300 pixels here, but when we go this way, it's 600 pixels, and boom, like that. So that's responsive design for you. There we go, and there we go. Great. Now the only thing we need is, let's add some animation to this so that we can finalize it, because as you can see, when I open this one, this is what we get. This one doesn't have that. So let's add some cool animation there. Very nice. Okay. So adding animation is not difficult at all. It's very simple. So let me show you how we do it. So like I said, put every class above the media queries. Now, with this media query that I've added here, just to tell you that you can add as many of these as you want. You can add as many breakpoints as you want. One for 400 pixel, one for 500, one for 600. You can add on each screen size a media query, and those styles will take over once the page gets to that screen size. So you can do pretty much anything. Make things disappear, change their color, etc., etc. So you can have a completely different design on a different screen size because of media queries. But now what we want to do is add some animation. So I like to add the animations at the top here. So to add an animation, put the word at keyframes. So keyframes, like so. And then you give the thing a name. So now I want to rotate the image. So I'll just call this one rotate in, like this. You can use a hyphen, I guess, though I'm not a fan of a hyphen, but it's up to you. And then you do that. So in here, you can now put keyframes at every position. So this is like a timeline you're creating. So you can tell it what to do at 0%, like this. And then you can add styles in here. What will happen at the beginning of the animation? And then you can duplicate this and do something at maybe 100%, like this. Now, it's not limited to 0 and 100. You can put something at 10%, another different motion at 20%, etc., etc., even at 21%. It's entirely up to you. So you can design and tell it, here I want the opacity to be 0, I want the opacity to be 1 here. Here I want it to move to the left. By this time it should be on the... So you can create all kinds of animations here and movement for your items. But for us, we want to keep it simple. We'll just put some stuff at 0 and then let it interpolate to 100%. So what I would do, first of all, I want the opacity to be at 0 when starting. Then I'll change it to 1 at 100%. That's one style. And then the other style will be transform. I want to rotate first. And I want to rotate this to maybe 30 degrees. And then put a comma because transform can add more than one. I want to scale it at the same time. And scale is actually, don't need to put a comma here. I can just say scale. and then I'll put the scale. The normal size is 1, but I want it at 1.5 to start with. So all I'm doing here is putting styles. If you notice, this is like this. Let me just do this so you can see it better, like that. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. I'm adding styles just like we add styles here, but I'm adding them inside an animation. So here I'm telling it to start at 0, then by the time it's at 100%, opacity should be full. So to start transparent and then clear by the end. Here I want it to start at 30 degrees but end up at 0 degrees. Then I want it to start at scale 1.5, which is large, and end at the normal scale, like that. So by just doing that, I have not done anything. So nothing will happen. I have to apply the animation to all the elements that I want. So in this case, for example, I can go to the image itself and just add the animation here. So to add an animation here, you just type animation. I'll say animation, like that. Let's see, animation, and then full colon. Then specify the name of the animation, and then tell it how long you want this animation to last. I want this one to last 1 second. And do you want any transitions at the end? Yes, I want an easy ease, like that. So this is how it works. So there's animation, the name of the animation, which is that one, and then how long it should last, and what transition at the end. Okay, and at the beginning as well. So if I now refresh, you will see this is happening there, like so. Boom. Okay, great. Now we can add this animation to any of these elements, doesn't matter. If I just copy this animation style and add it to anything, I can add it to this whole container here, and you will see this animation happen when I do this. You see that? Look at that. So you can add it to all elements, any elements that you wish to add. So you can make also many animations and add different animation to each part separately. The only problem with our animation right now is that the image, we can see it going out of the box. And so what we will do is we'll tell the box that anything that goes out of it should be clipped. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get this. This is the box that contains the image and its image container. So we'll go to its style, which is image container, and say overflow hidden. So anything that overflows will be hidden. So if I now refresh, you see this is the illusion that it creates. Okay, very cool. So we can as well have put that animation on something else, but we want a different animation for for the elements there, for the inputs. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I want this one, I'll change this one to move in. So you can name the animations anything you want, like I've said. So opacity will remain like this because this is good. But then I want the transform to change. I don't want a scale, so I'll remove the scale like that. I don't want to scale them. I just want them to move up and down. Also, I don't want a rotate because I don't want them to rotate. Instead, I want a translation. So I'll say translate in the y-axis and then translate by 100 pixels. And then down here it should be 0 pixel, like that. So what I'm doing is I'm starting the thing at a higher y value, which is 100 down here, and then it will slowly go to 0. It will slowly move to the 0 position. So from 100, if you want it to start from the top and come down, you put a negative value. Yeah. So now I can put move in on one of these inputs. So let me go to the input right here. This is one of the inputs. I can add a style right here and say animation. Put the animation name. I want it to last 1 second. Now if you want it less than a second, you can say 0.5 or you can say 0.5 seconds and put that easy ease. Now there are other ways to ease the theme, so you can check those out online. But if I refresh, this is what you see. Okay, that moves on its own without that. But if I want the whole thing to move together, I'll move the style to the div that contains both of them, and this is this one right here. So excuse me, and there we go. So you see that happening. Very cool. Now the thing is, I want to add animations to all of these guys, but I want the speed to be different. As you can see, this one has 0.5 seconds. If I put 1 second, it will move slower like that. Okay, much nicer. But instead of having to put the animations here, I'll create classes and then put the class there. So what I'll do is I'll cut this animation out of here and remove that. Then what I'll do is right maybe here, I'll create a class name. I'll call it fx animate. I'll call this one animate1 like this and paste that. So that's animation on 1 second, right? Good. So let me go and get this class and just add it to my input. And where is that input? It's right here. I'll just add it as part of the class. So if I now refresh, you see it still works. Good. So now in this way, I can make animations that are of different length here and put a different one on each element. So let's add a few of these classes here. So what I'll do is I'm going to duplicate this 6 times. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that I can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally 6. And then I'm going to add different lengths of time here. For example, start with 0.4, and then I'm going to go, I'll put 0.4, I'll add 0.4 to each one. So this one is 0.8, this one goes to 1.2, and then so 1.6, and then finally 2 seconds, and then 2.4. Okay, so 0.4 seconds between each one of them. Great. And then what I can do now is just copy the first one here. I'll copy that. And then I'll go to each and every item that I want to add this to, and then add. So this one has 1. This one I'll add fx of 2. So then they can follow each other in sequence. This one will have 3. And then let's add, what's going on here? Let's add classes here as well. Let me see if I can add on these. So this one will be 4, and then 5, and then 6. That way everything can load in sequence. So if I refresh, there we go, it's working fine, except these guys don't seem to be doing anything. So maybe maybe we require divs instead. So what I will do is I'll add divs to the beginning here because of the display type. So maybe it wants the display to be block for things to work. So I'll let the divs be here, and then what I'll do is I'll add a class here of dflex so that they're still on the same line even though they are divs. Okay, great. But they are too close together, so I'll add classes here. Excuse me. So I'll put class, and then get these classes. Where are they? Actually, I don't have spacing classes. So what I'll do is I'll say mx, and then put maybe, actually not mx, I'll put me so that the margin is at the end of each one of them. So I don't want the first one to have a margin on the beginning. And then I'll put 2 like that, so that they're not too close like this. Okay, great. And then with those classes now, I can paste the fx classes. So there's 1, This one is 3, so I will put 4, 5, and 6. I also put 1 here on this text, and maybe I'll make it 5. Just randomize them. And if I now refresh, there we go. It looks much better. Okay, pretty cool. We can add this to even these guys at the top here. I think that's what we did, just the other one. So you can add them to whatever you want. Let me add, where is the title here? Login, this one right here. I can add a class, just paste there. I can put 1 and maybe 3. Just put random values so that they don't look like they are in sequence. Okay, great. So you can put to any of these. Now we need to be able to switch between login and sign up pages. So what I need to do in this case is duplicate the form, this one right here. Now, since I'm duplicating the form here, I want to make sure that all the styles that are here are removed so that we put them in the styles section there. So what I'll do is I'm going to cut this out of here and just put a style for form. Make sure it's above the media. And I will paste there like this. Okay, great. So that now if I duplicate, I won't have to do the work twice when I'm copying the classes. Okay, so I'll select all of this and duplicate the form. Now I will have 2 forms of this of similar style. There's another one down here, but we don't want that. So what I want is I'll change this one to sign up and maybe change this to create an account. This is for the sign up section. And since this is a sign up page, we can put login page here. And instead of login button there, we'll say create account. Okay, the rest remains the same. And what I'll do is I'll put a class of hide over here in the login part here so that I can only see one of these. And I'll put the class here and say hide is equal to display none, so that the form on the top, which is the login form, should not show. So if I now refresh, I only have the sign up view, but I need more inputs for it. So what I would do is, first of all, I'll remove the padding. The padding is too big. Maybe put 1 for this one and that one, so they are not so wide. Excuse me. Maybe 1 is too little. Let's put 2. Let's also change the margin bottom to 3 so that we make way, because we are going to have more items here. Okay, so margin bottom for everything goes to 3. Okay, that's looking much better. Now let's add more components here. So what I would do is I'm going to duplicate these 2, email and password. I'll duplicate them. And then the ones at the beginning. So this one is 1, 2, 3 for the FX. I'll put 4, 5 here, so they go in sequence. And then the first one's placeholder will be first name, and the next one will be last name. And type text here. So instead of envelope here, I'll put person. On the second one, the icon will be person as well, but there's a few version. So you can look for specific ones that you want, and there we go. So first name, last name, email, password. Yeah, looking great. Maybe I can increase the padding inside to 3. Maybe that will look a bit better. Let's see if they can still fit. Well, barely fits, but it still fits, so that's fine. Let's try the responsive view and see how far we go with this. Boom. Okay, so looking great. Everything is good. Everything is great. All right, so now we can switch between the login and sign up by simply altering where we put the hide class. If we remove the hide class from here and put it there on the sign up form, then we hide the sign up version, so the login one will show instead. So all we need to do is add some JavaScript so that when we click on these guys, we can switch between the two. So all I'll do is create names for these guys. So the sign up will be JS sign up form. That's what I'll name it. So copy that and put another one on the login and change this to login form. Okay, great. So with that in mind, we can now add some JavaScript. So let's add some JavaScript down here after the body tag. Let's add script tags like so. We don't need that. And I'm going to have two functions here. One will say show login, and the other one will be a function show sign up. So these are just names that I've given these guys, so you can name them in any way that you please. Okay, so what I want to do is grab this one and hide it, and then grab the other one and show it depending on what's happening. So here I'm going to say I'm going to go document.querySelector. That's how we select items in the page. And then I will look for a class name. So I'll put a dot there and paste that. So what I will grab here is the sign up form, because that's the class it has. So with that one, I want it to toggle the class list. So I'll say, instead of toggling, actually, let's be more specific. So in the classes, I'll make sure that if we want to show the login page, I'll make sure that the sign up page, in the class list, we add the hide class there, so that we hide the sign up page. And then I'll duplicate this, do the same for the login to make sure that it contains the we remove any hide classes that are there. So that's all we are doing. We're removing one, showing the other. That's all. So I'm going to copy this and paste this here. So all I'm doing is swapping now what I'm doing. So I'll change this to login and change the other one to sign up, like this. So this is just for grabbing the item, and then I'm saying in its classes, add a class called hide. In this one, I'm removing a class called hide and doing the opposite on the other side. Then I'll copy this and add it to the correct button. So the buttons are here, and I'll tell it that on click, when someone clicks, let's run that function. Okay, and same here, when someone clicks, we run the sign up, show sign up, like that. Okay, great. So with this in mind, things should work as intended. So if I click on sign up, there we go. If I click on login, there we go. So simple and straightforward. Only thing is, these do not change to switch with the situation. So what I'll do is, I want to grab the button and remove the button selected, swap it from here to there. So exactly what I did with the other stuff, I'm going to swap this class instead, button selected. So this one, I will duplicate these two, and instead I will grab the login button and the sign up button here. So, and then we'll be swapping the button selected here as well. So if we're showing the login, I want the login button to be selected, so I'll add that class. And then I want the sign up to remove the button selected. So simple and straightforward. I'll copy this and do exactly the same opposite on the other side. So I'll get the login, put it here, sign up, we'll switch to this one. So when we're showing the sign up, we add button selected there and remove from the login button. So let's refresh and let's see if that happens. And as you can see, it actually works. Here there's a scroll bar that shows up once in a while, so if you don't like that, you can limit. Let me reduce the sizes of these guys in the sign up form. The padding, let's reduce it to 2 instead. So I'm just going to select this p is equal to 3, and on the inputs, change it back to 2 so that we don't get that scroll bar. Or what you can do is you can tell the body to say overflow hidden, so that any overflow is hidden. Okay, this is working just fine. But also when we click on login, we should have the same effect. So easy peasy, what we can do on the login link, this is the link to the login. So we'll put an on-click listener as well and say show, in this case it's a login, so it's show login. And then we'll do the same on, oh, this is on the forgot password, sorry. I'll cut this and move it to here in the on-click for the login side. Then I'll copy as it is to go to the other form and do the same thing. So on the sign up here, I'll put paste on-click listener, show sign up. That way, when we click on these buttons, we get the same effect, sign up and login. And you can see the buttons change here as well as we do this. Okay, very, very nice. So everything seems done on this thing. There we go. I don't think we've forgotten anything so far. Let's see the responsiveness of this. Let's see there. Okay, and the buttons still work as intended. Oh, before we go, I forgot one thing. Let's move our styles to another file. Okay, and also let me get this one here and put those things in the top part there. So body, let's go up here and put this in a body class. There we go. So there we go. Put that in the body, semicolon there. And so let's remove all the styles from here and put them appropriately. So this one is image container and image there. So I'm going to remove all of this that's here, cut that. Okay. So we can target this by targeting the image container and then image. So let me go up to where there is image container for the other stuff. So I'll duplicate this and then simply put img at the end because that's the tag name for images. So any image that's inside that container will have that class, those styles. So let's go down again. I want to remove this one. So in order to target it, let's just give it a class name. And this one will be, this is content. This one is, I don't know what we can name it, content 2 maybe. Form container sounds much better. So let's add form container. We can add it anywhere really. Okay, so we add our styles there. We can make them more human readable by doing this. Okay, what more styles? We don't want to see any styles down here, and that actually does it. So we have no more styling, inline styling anymore. So let's refresh to make sure we haven't broken anything and everything still works. All right, great. So what we'll do now is select everything inside the style tags, select everything, and then cut, and then we will add, duplicate here. Always add your custom CSS file last so it can override anything here. So custom.css, that's what we're going to call the file. So right click in the CSS folder, new file, paste, save, and then write custom.css. Okay, let's save it as all files. Save. So when you are making a lot of pages, the custom CSS file may be repeated several times. So let's rename this one to login-custom CSS. That's much better, so that in case we combine these pages later, it will be very specific. So it's login-custom.css. So let's make sure everything is working. Everything still works. Nice. Then we can remove the style tags here. All right, so this completes the tutorial, and hopefully you've learned something new, and I will see you in another tutorial.